right, so reviewing scientific notation. Up here we have two equivalent equations. There's an equal sign, right? This is the same thing as this. But there's a box, meaning something's missing. What value is missing, do you think? What does 1.61257 times 10 times 10 times 10, that's the same thing as 1.61257 times 10 to the third. Because there are 3 tens, right? 10 times 10 times 10. 10 3 times is 10 to the third. And do you remember what 10 to the third means you do to the decimal? What does multiplying by 10 do? Okay, it adds a decimal to the right. Give me a better, or it adds a 0 to the right. Give me a more mathematical definition. You're totally right. You know, it adds a 0, and then I multiply by another 10, and I get another 0. Maddie?
You move the decimal 3 times to the right.
Okay, so you move the decimal 3 times to the right. Or it's called a, do you remember the word place value? Right, it increases one place value every time. So my decimal is going to go over 1, 2, 3 times. So my answer is really 1612.57 because my decimal moved 3 times, and since it's a positive 3, I'm going to the right. It's getting bigger. All right, let's try this next one. 1.61257 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 is the same thing as 1.61257 times 10 to the 5th power because there are 5 tens. And it's a positive 5, so I move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 6, 1, 2, 5, 7. I don't really need it, but I'm going to put it there, right? You typically want something behind it, so I could put a 0.0. Does that affect the number?
No.
No. It's a whole number now. Without, sitting and doing the math, every problem for this next section. Without just, plugging away. Can you see the pattern?
Yeah.
Who wants to explain me the pattern? John?
The exponents, they go down a small value.
Okay, so we start with an exponent of 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Okay? So what does this first one look like?
23.1415 times 10 times 10 times 10.
Right? Give me the final answer. Where's the decimal at in the final answer?
Behind the
I'm going to move it how many times?
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's at the very end, right? Now let's talk about this. Can anyone, hint, everyone should, tell me the definition of scientific notation? Like there's something about scientific notation. Here it says you move the decimal to get a number between 1 and 10. There needs to be one digit to the left of the decimal. How many digits are to the left of the decimal? So it's not really the best answer. This answer should really be 14159 times 10 to the, and instead of 5, I moved my decimal one more time, so what should it be?
6.
To the 6th. Right? I mean, this really isn't a good math problem because 23 shouldn't be there. It should be 2.3. If you have a number that's bigger than 10, we're in trouble. We only want one digit to the left. But that's for another day. So what's this one going to look like? If the exponent's 4, what's the change? Where does the decimal go, Maddie? In front of the 9s, between the 5 and the 9. What about the one where the exponent's a 3? Where's that one? Eduardo? The 2. Carver?
Between the 4 and the 1.
And 1? Eduardo? Do you remember what happens? Let's continue our pattern. What happens with zeros? Anything to the power of 0 is
1.
1, not 0. It's a special rule. So does having a power of 0 change anything?
No.
So it stays the same. 23.14159. What does that negative exponent do? It makes the number smaller. And then negative 2 exponent moves the decimal. Yeah, originally 2 times to the left, right? I'm going to be a stickler and I'm going to say I don't accept this. What should you have in front of it?
A 0.
A 0. You've got to have placeholders, you guys. So what's the rule? If you were going to explain scientific notation, pretend you're the teacher and you had to explain in words what scientific notation means. What if you had 10 to the 4th power? How could you explain what that means? Use your words.
It would be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10.
Okay, so 10 to the 4th power means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. What does that do to your number?
It makes it larger.
And how many times larger?
4 times its original value.
So the exponent tells, tells is with an S, not a Y. Tells, what does the exponent tell us? The exponent tells, okay, to what? What do we move?
The decimal or the decimal.
To move the decimal and what does the decimal tell? Like an exponent of 4 tells me I move the decimal what?
4 place.
4 times. And an exponent of negative 3 tells me I move the decimal
3 times.
negative 3 times, right? So the exponent tells to move the decimal a number of times. Does that make sense? If it's an exponent of 4, we're going to move the decimal 4 times. If an exponent of 8, we're going to move the decimal 8 times. What happens if it's an exponent of 0?
It's
Eduardo, what? Yeah, you don't move at all. And why don't you move? Yeah, because 10 to the first power, or 0 power, is like multiplying by 1. And does multiplying by 1 change anything? No. And last but not least, remember this rule. When a negative exponent, when you have a negative exponent, what do?
You move it to the left.
The decimal moves to the left.